Good morning. Before we get started, do you remember the last three memory verses? Romans 6:23a, for the wages of sin is death. Proverbs 3 and 5, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. And Psalms 105:42a, for he remembered his holy promises. Before we get into today's Bible story, Abram's tent home, think about these questions. Number 1, what reward did God promise to Abraham if he was faithful? Number 2, why did the servant girl Hagar try to run away from her mistress Sarai? Number 3, who found Hagar lying down to rest beside a fountain in the wilderness? Number 4, what did the angel of the Lord tell Hagar to do? Number 5, what name did Abram give to Hagar's infant son? And number 6, who changed the names of Abram and his wife, and what did their new names mean? This week's memory verse is 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 3. But the Lord is faithful, who shall establish you and keep you from evil. Abram's tent home, Genesis chapter 15 through 17. Abram was growing old. Although he had great riches and many servants, he had no children. One night while he was asleep, God appeared to him and said, do not be afraid, for I will protect you and will give you a great reward because you are faithful. What will you give me for a reward? Abram asked.
God promised that someday Abram would have a son. At God's bidding, Abraham got up, went outside, looked up at the starlight heavens. Someday the children of your family, God said, shall be as many as the stars, so many that no one can count them. Abram understood that his family would one day own the land of Canaan. Even though Abram did not have any children, he believed God's promise. God caused him to know that the children of his family would be slaves in a strange land for 400 years. After that, they will return to Canaan and possess the land. Later, we shall see how this came to pass. At one time, Abram and his household went to Egypt during a famine in the land of Canaan. When they returned, they brought with them an Egyptian servant girl named Hagar. They taught Hagar about the true God.
One day, Hagar displeased Sarai. Sarai punished Hagar severely, and Hagar ran away. For some time, Hagar followed the sandy desert road. When she got tired, she stopped to rest by a fountain. There, an angel of the Lord found her. Hagar, Sarai's maid, where did you come from, and where are you going? The angel asked. I am running away from my mistress, Hagar replied, because I am so unhappy. Go back, the angel said, and try to please Sarai. God will give you a son. He will grow up to be a strong man. Hagar knew a messenger from God had spoken to her. God had known about her all the time. She obeyed and returned to Sarai. Afterward, the fountain in the wilderness where the angel had found her was called Bir Lahai-Roi, which means a well of the living one who sees me.
Hagar had a son, as God had promised. Abram named him Ishmael, which means God hears. Abram loved Ishmael, but Ishmael was not the child that God had promised him. When Abram was nearly 100 years old, God spoke to him again. Abram fell on his face and listened. God said, I will make a covenant with you. Abram knew a covenant was a promise between two people, each one agreeing to do something for the other. In this covenant, God promised to give Abram a son, and Abram promised to serve God faithfully. God said, your name shall no more be called Abram, but Abraham, which means the father of many, and your wife, Sarai, shall be called Sarah, which means princess.
Now let's answer the questions from earlier. Number one, what reward did God promise Abram if he was faithful? God promised him a son. Number 2, Why did the servant girl, Hagar, try to run away from her mistress, Sarai? Sarai had punished her. Number 3. Who found Hagar lying down to rest beside a fountain in the wilderness? An angel of the Lord. Number 4. What did the angel of the Lord tell Hagar to do? The angel of the Lord told Hagar to return to her mistress and try to please her. Number 5. What name did Abram give to Hagar's infant son? Abram named him Ishmael. Number 6. Who changed the names of Abram and his wife, and what did their new names mean? God changed their names to Abraham, which means the father of many, and Sarah, which means princess. Again, this week's memory verse is 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 3. But the Lord is faithful, who shall establish you and keep you from evil. Here's part 2 of today's lesson. Think about it. Jesus and the football team.
At a high school summer camp 2 weeks before football, during preseason training, several members of the varsity football team made decisions to follow Christ in response to the camp speaker's inspirational talk about Jesus turning losers into winners. The next Sunday morning, those players all showed up for church. "Great to see you here," said the pastor when he greeted the boys after the service. "Yeah, well, we all became Christians," said one of the boys. "Because with Jesus on our team, we can't lose," said another. "Well, I'm very happy for you," grinned the pastor.
The following Saturday night, one of the girls in the youth group noticed one of the football players standing in front of a neighbor's house. A party was in full swing, and the boy was staggering around on the lawn, apparently drunk. She saw him fall on a friend's parked car. "What are you doing here?" she questioned. "I thought you became a Christian." He snapped back. "That doesn't mean I can't have fun. I'm not going to let Jesus or anybody tell me what to do." During the course of the season, the football team lost 7 of their first 8 games. Apparently, Jesus forgot to suit up. One by one, the players who became Christians quit showing up for church and youth group activities. By the end of the season, it was hard to find a single player within 10 miles of the church on Sunday morning.
The application. Yes, Jesus can turn losers into winners, but not winners according to the way the world defines winning. Jesus said that the only way to win is to lose. Jesus himself lost his own life in order to achieve victory over sin and death. He is the ultimate winner, but he won by paying a high price. Jesus is our example. He calls us to become his disciples and follow him in costly obedience. If you are following Christ for selfish reasons and are unwilling to conform your life to his, you will lose. On the other hand, if you are ready to lose your life for his sake, you will ultimately win. Faith without obedience is no faith at all. James 2:17 says, "Even so faith, if it hath not works, it is dead being alone." Are you being obedient? Are you making godly decisions? Let's go back to our memory verse. But the Lord is faithful, who shall establish you and keep you from evil. 2 Thessalonians 3:3.
This concludes our lesson.